This video is the first of many that I intend to make that seek to help you to understand when and why assessors may award 4 points on any one daily living descriptor. The video is split into 4 segments. First is a brief explanation of why it's important to score 4 points on a daily living descriptor. Second, we'll discover why you should act now. The third and fourth parts are a practical guide about when assessors award 4 points and, more importantly, how to get yours. On the 18th of March 2025, Liz Kendall announced in Parliament that there would be major changes to the way that people's entitlement to PIP would be scored and assessed. If the government gets its way, from November 2026, a new eligibility requirement will be introduced to ensure that only those who score a minimum of 4 points in at least one daily living activity will be eligible for the daily living component of PIP. Claimants will still need to score a minimum of 8 points overall to be entitled to the benefit. It's important for you to get to grips with this because I suspect that many of you will be entitled to 4 points on at least one of the daily living descriptors. If you don't currently have a 4-point award, it may be because you have had difficulty in expressing the severity of your disability to the assessor. And some of you may have been so grateful to receive any PIP at all at your last assessment that you have not challenged lower scoring descriptors. Whatever your situation, it's not too early to start preparing now. Even if your next review takes place before the changes have been implemented, you should try to get a 4-point answer or keep one that you already have. In that way, you will future-proof yourself from losing your benefit at a review after the changes have come into force. Now let's get down to understanding the circumstances in which an assessor would award 4 points on any one descriptor. First, let's look at some of the descriptors, because there are some simple but key points to understand about what changes a 2-point answer in an assessment to a 4-point answer. Let's look at some 2-point descriptors first. On some descriptors, the claimant can score 2 points if they can perform their activity alone, perhaps using an aid or an appliance. For example, when it comes to preparing food, descriptor B says needs to use an aid or an appliance to be able to prepare or cook a simple meal. Or perhaps you cannot cook a simple meal using a conventional cooker, but you are able to do so using a microwave. Very similar requirements come up in other descriptors. For example, needs to use an aid or an appliance to be able to wash or bathe. The thing that's different about a descriptor that scores 4 points is that the claimant always needs the help of another person to perform the activity. Let's look at some examples of that. Here, an answer scoring 4 points or more begins with descriptor E. needs supervision or assistance to either prepare food or cook a simple meal. For washing and bathing, its descriptor F needs assistance to be able to wash their body between the shoulders and the waist. Therefore, it's crucial to convince the assessor that performing an activity is not something that you can do alone. Unfortunately, you won't score 4 points for every activity for which you require help. So then, how do you get your 4 points? In order to boost your chances of being awarded a 4-point descriptor, you need to understand how assessors look at it. In practice, an assessor will usually begin by deciding whether the claimant can perform the activity alone, perhaps with the use of an appliance. In such a case, the assessor will choose to award a 2-point descriptor. However, if the assessor decides that the claimant cannot perform the function reliably on their own, then the assessor must decide if the claimant needs the assistance of another person. The term reliably is key here because it's a legal test that the assessor must apply. A claimant cannot perform a function reliably if there would be a safety risk, or the finished result would not be to a proper standard, or the activity would take too long, or the claimant would not be able to do it as often as required. Assessors call this the reliability test. It's otherwise known as the STAR system. Don't worry if you don't know much about reliability under the STAR system yet. I intend to make lots of videos to explain it in detail. At this early stage in your training, it's probably enough to simply begin to consider when you need the assistance of another person because of your disability. Perhaps make some notes too. Here are some examples that can potentially score 4 points to get you thinking. I hope that helped to get you started. Now let's summarise what we've learnt in this video. From November 2026, you will need to score 4 points on a daily living descriptor to be entitled to that component of the benefit. All the descriptors that score 4 points require you to demonstrate that you need in some way the help of another person in order to perform the function reliably. You should start thinking about all the situations in which you need assistance to be able to perform the functions in the daily living descriptors. As we all stand together to help each other through these changes, I wish you all the very, very best with your PIP future.